Today is Sunday, February 5th or March 5th, year of our Lord 2023, depending on the calendar you want to listen to. We're doing some Q drops here and deltas. So I want to talk about different versions of Q and how we got here. Donald Trump is in the center of this, obviously. So he writes a book called The Art of the Deal. It was released in 1987. We're going to go over that release here on David Letterman in just a minute. But first, we're going to talk about what this book is. Actually, we can start over here. This is what the book is, The Art of the Deal. Here's a synopsis.
The Art of the Deal by Donald J. Trump. The best-selling book, The Art of the Deal, written by a person who has great experience as an entrepreneur, is an autobiography and a guide for business as well. It's not only about real estate and construction, but a really interesting read about how to make successful business deals. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell below to make sure you learn every time we have a new video out. Trump starts the book with a diary of his typical business week, which presents to us his work style. He claims you can't be imaginative or an entrepreneur if you have too much structure. He prefers to come to work each day and just see what develops. In Chapter 2, he shares his rules in business, the elements of the deal, defining his style as simple and straightforward. I aim very high, and then I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing to get what I'm after. According to Trump, there are 11 elements of the deal, and they are: 1. Think big. One of the keys to thinking big is total focus. You can think of it almost as a controlled neurosis, which is a quality. Many highly successful entrepreneurs are obsessive, driven, single-minded, and sometimes almost maniacal, but it's all channeled into their work. Number 2, protect the downside and the upside will take care of itself. You should be very conservative in business and go into the deal anticipating the worst. Number 3, maximize your options. You should protect yourself by being flexible, keeping a lot of balls in the air, because most deals fall out, no matter how promising they seem at first. Number 4, know your market. You should do your own surveys and draw your own conclusions. I'm a great believer in asking everyone for an opinion before I make a decision. I ask and ask and ask until I begin to get a gut feeling about something, and that's when I make decision. Number 5, use your leverage. Leverage is something the other guy wants. You have to convince the other guy it's in his interest to make the deal. Number 6, enhance your location. You don't necessarily need the best location. What you need is the best deal. You can enhance a location through promotion and through psychology. What you should never do is pay too much. Number 7, get the word out. You need to generate interest, and you need to create excitement. The benefits of being written about have far outweighed the drawbacks. Number 8, fight back. You should fight back very hard when people treat you badly or unfairly or try to take advantage of you. Number 9, deliver the goods. Creating excitement, doing wonderful promotion, getting all kinds of press, throwing a little hyperbole is not enough. You should also have a great product to promote. Number 10, contain the costs. You should be cost conscious. You should spend what you have to, but not spend more than you should. Every penny counts, because before too long, your pennies turn into dollars. Number 11, have fun. You shouldn't work only for success and money. The real excitement is playing the game. Then in next chapters, Trump continues persuading the reader how these rules work with examples from his business. The real stories make the book so vivid and enjoyable to read. Memorable quotes from the book. The final key to the way I promote is bravado. I play to people's fantasies. People may not always think big themselves, but they can still get very excited by those who do.
Okay, this is a description of Q. We just went through 10 things before this. The key to the final way is bravado. Trump has a lot of bravado. And all the things that came before explain the way that we should be patient in disseminating this data. So this is back when Trump actually had some cred and he was a darling of the media.
That's why a little hyperbole never hurts. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular.
This is the expectation that everybody has right now of Q. The biggest, the greatest, and the most spectacular scare event, the biggest and the greatest, most spectacular flash event, the biggest and the greatest, most spectacular financial event, the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular reevaluation event. These are all events that people are waiting for. Guess what? We're still waiting, but you got to be diligent and you have to push. That's what we went back through here, right? We can look at all the different, contain the costs, deliver the goods, get the word out, enhance your location, use your leverage, know your market, maximize your options, protect the downside and the upside. The downside and the upside. And we are all thinking we're on the downside. So here's another analysis of this book.
Maggie Haberman, you say in your book that to fully reckon with Donald Trump, his presidency and political future, people need to know where he comes from. You go on to paint a picture of the New York City from which you both hail. Can you talk a little bit about that culture?
Sure, and thank you for having me so much to talk about the book. The world that Donald Trump came from in the 60s, 70s, 80s, New York City, corruption touched on so many different aspects of life, aspects of the media, aspects of the political culture. It was a machine politics town, and that was really how he got his education on how things worked. And aspects
That's a very important statement that she just made. This is the town of New York where Trump grew up. It's based on corruption, insider information, and all of the dark machinations of the machine. This is where he was trained. Now, I don't know if she talks about this or not. I didn't preview this whole thing, but what she's going to talk about, we're going to come back to this, is that where Trump came from, it was rift with all of the ways the machine was broken. So this happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 40 years before he's going to get to Washington.
Aspects of the media, aspects of the political culture. It was a machine politics town, and that was really how he got his education on how things worked. And aspects of the real estate industry. Now, he and his father were not always typical, particularly Donald Trump, not always typical of the way the entire real estate industry operated, but certainly an aspect of it. And he really engaged with the seamier sides of it. You know,
the seamier side. So this is a review of what it looks like with Donald Trump. Let's go back to the actual time. This is 1987. This is Trump doing his release of the book on Letterman. But I'm going to play this from the beginning. We don't get to Trump until over here, I think. So we've got a couple of minutes, but this is New York City in the 80s.
Friday afternoons, we tape a piece for our program on the streets of New York City. Now, this, of course, takes planning, meticulous preparation, and a lot of hard work, so it was only a matter of time before we said to hell with it. Instead, we decided to wander around aimlessly, pick up a couple of strangers, and hang around with them all afternoon. And here, boys and girls, is what happened.
Hi.
Oh, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Right outside their hotel, we met Neil Bordy and Tanya Anderson.
So for those of you who don't know, in the 80s, this right here is a Tom Selleck mustache. The mustache that has its own Caterpillar name and recognition factor.
Good. How are you? Good. What's your name?
Right outside their hotel, we met Neil Bordy and Tanya Anderson, just in from Louisville, Kentucky for a weekend vacation.
What are you doing right now?
We're just getting ready to go out and do a little sightseeing.
And would you mind if we came along with you? Would that bother you? Because as it turns out, we really have nothing to do today.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
They planned to spend the afternoon sightseeing and agreed to let us tag along. I'm guessing it was the jet lag.
Taxi! Hey! Right here! Taxi!
So this used to be media, okay? This is people on the street. This is real engagement with real humans. I mean, look, we've got to see how much the environment around us has changed. David Letterman was a go-to. You watch Letterman like every other night show. If you've watched my content, you've seen that really throwing back to the way that we get programmed is important in understanding how we get out of it.
What?
Empire State Building, and step on it. Nice view, huh? Look at that. Yeah. That's the Lincoln Memorial over there. Yeah. Which one? Right over there. See those twin towers? That's Lincoln and his wife. Well, that's the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't see it because of the fog. It's beautiful.
You guys are blocking me.
Oh, geez, my retinas, my corneas. This is going to look like something left over from the Patty Hearst kidnapping. Yes, there's memories that last a lifetime. Here's the card. This is going to your Peggy and Lyle, Peggy and Terrell. And it says, New York is horrible, the people are nasty, the city is dirty, and everyone is very mean.
Dave, how you doing?
Good, how are you? I want you to meet some people, some friends of mine.
All right.
They're in town from Louisville. This is Neil and his girlfriend Tanya.
Neil, Tanya, why don't you come on in? Peach margaritas.
Do you know about Trump Tower?
A little.
You just heard of it?
Now, David Letterman later on in his career will just bash the crap out of Donald Trump. But watch how this works. Dave and Trump are buddies. They're buddies, okay? Trump is part of the process. You cannot be a good hacker unless you're a good thief. You can't check every door unless you know how to pick every lock.
You know, Donald Trump's in the news all the time.
Is he really? He just
Really,
saved some.
because he's shoving people out of their homes.
Yeah. We watched 60 Minutes a year ago.
Yeah, so she says Trump does is pushes people out of their homes. And that is a narrative about Trump's father, who had low-income properties and fixed rental environments. It's the opposite of the truth. They're starting to change the narrative here. This is 1987, by the way.
Hi, how are you? Are you the security?
Look at that smile. This is the smile inside of Trump Tower in 1987. This is the narrative of the media.
Hi, how are you? Are you the security man?
Yes.
You carrying heat?
Keep an eye on you.
Yeah. Do you have a gun on you?
Yes.
Show us your gun.
I don't think it's because.
Let me pat you down.
No,
come on over. Come on over here.
No.
Let me just see if I can find where your gun is. Please.
No.
What does that go for?
That's $10,000.
10 grand. I don't know. That might be a little showy with that necklace. Foxes are what? They're clubbed to death?
No. They have to be very carefully put to sleep.
Are they shot in the head, Wes?
Notice the symbolism that Dave's narrative is that foxes get shot in the head.
Thank you very much. Go on in. Thank you again.
The Trump Organization. The Trump Organization. Boom, 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 boom.
My gosh. I'm Dave Letterman. Nice to see you. How are you?
Nice would you like to?
So Dave comes in. We're going to hear about this in the second interview in a minute. Dave comes in and he says, "Hey, can I get in to see Trump?" And Trump lets him in immediately.
Come into the office?
Yeah, let's go into the office. Because I need to talk to you about the heating in my building, Don. Don, where is Doug Flutie, for heaven's sakes? Doug! Where the hell do you have him? I have one more question and then we're out of here. It's the middle of a Friday afternoon. You didn't know we were coming.
Absolutely.
You said, come on up. How busy can you be?
I'm not. I have nothing to do. You know my truth? I have nothing to do. I wish I had more to do.
What would you be doing if
I'll
you could
go to
do it?
Louisville.
You should.
We'll do a couple of real estate deals in Louisville.
There's a spot over here down on the carpet. Look into that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. All right, let's get out of here. Don't touch anything. Let's go. Let's keep going. That's about it. And after this, you're pretty much on your own. Nice meeting you.
Right.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a good time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Keep your hand on your wallet. All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, keep your hand on your wallet. New York's not safe. This is the same tower where this happens. Right here. This is the same Trump Tower where just a few years later, like 40, we get this.
I see a woman in the night with a baby in her hand.
It's great to be at Trump Tower. It's great to be in a wonderful city, New York. And it's an honor to have everybody here. This is beyond anybody's expectations. There's been no crowd like this. And I can tell you, some of the candidates, they went in, they didn't know the air conditioner didn't work. They sweated like dogs. They didn't know.
Yeah, they sweated like dogs. There's no air conditioning in this heat factory, right? But here it is, 40 years prior. 40 years prior. Bum, 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 bum. Nothing to see here, people.
Next time you see this plant in your backyard, don't cut it.
Next time you see this plant in your backyard, is that a dandelion that actually helps real stuff? Yes. Don't use Monsanto.
We'll be right back with Mr. Wizard. Has enough money to give everyone in the audience tonight $1 million.
So Oprah, this is a precursor to what Oprah does later, actually. Give everyone in the audience something.
Okay, we'll see what kind of mood he's in. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the author of this book right here, Trump, The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump. Hi, Donald. Good to see you. Nice of you to stop by. You know, at the beginning of the show, I said you either love him or you hate him. Now, do you find that that's true, or does everybody love you, or does everybody hate you?
No, most people love me, and a few really have great distaste for me, Dave.
And why is it that those people, that few, would not care for you? Because you're so successful?
I can't imagine. No, I don't think so. It's just I sort of speak my mind a little bit like you in that respect.
Yeah.
A little bit like
a little bit like me.
Not too much, hopefully.
How much are you worth right now as you're sitting right here?
So David Letterman just pounds this. This is a precursor to where are your tax returns? What are you worth? What's your cred? That this is 40 years before Russia, tax returns and everything else. Predictive programming, people.
Zero idea, David. It depends on what's happening with the world and the market. But the $1 million for each person in the audience sounds like it could be an intriguing idea.
Yeah. Do you make more money? You own casinos. How many casinos do you own?
We have 4 casinos.
4 casinos in
Paradise Island, Atlantic City, and it's really been very fabulous.
So Paradise Island is out there with the same string of islands that you see all that bad stuff going on. I'm not going to talk about Epstein Island in this cast, but he's also got Atlantic City. So Donald Trump in 1987 is in the middle of one of the most corrupt cities in the world, the greatest city in the world, depends on which end of the spectrum you want to be on. And he's in the casino business, and he's in the real estate business. So he knows what's happening. He is in the center of the corruption belly, hopefully in it and not of it, based on what we've seen today.
Do you make more money from the casinos or more money in real estate development?
Well, probably real estate in a sense, but real estate is an appreciation business, whereas the casinos are cash flow. And I don't know, I never really even think of it in those terms. I tried doing a great job. I think we have the best hotel casinos in the world, and hopefully I have the best real estate in the world with Trump Tower and everything, and that's what I like. That's
all right, now let's get back to the assessment of your wealth for a second. If you had to liquidate, if you just decided I'm going somewhere else, I'm going to live in a trailer, and you wanted to sell off everything, you'd start with your real estate development, all of your real estate holdings, and whatever else you have, your casinos, so on and so forth. You sold everything. Right. How big would that check be?
So if you come into office as a president, you're supposed to do something called divestiture, which is where you make yourself unavowed of all of your assets, and you can't engage with business because you're supposed to know everything as the president. And so he's talking about this in advance. Every one of these points comes up 4 decades later.
you put in your pocket when you headed west for the trailer?
Well, I hate to disappoint, but I have zero idea, David. How come this seat is at such a low level? You know, I'm looking at him. He's got this stage rigged, folks.
No. But
that seat is a good half, six inches higher than my seat.
And so am I.
Huh? That's it.
But no, I'm serious. I think that
I'm not going to get you off that subject.
No, this is. I think this is the kind of thing that people love to fantasize about, because you're unquestionably one of the most successful men in the country, if not the world, and also one of the wealthiest. So
one of the most successful men in the country, if not the world, and also one of the wealthiest. So at this point in time, in 1987, December 22nd is the air date. December 2nd of 1987 is the tape date of this. So in 87, we're in 23 now. So we're looking at close to 50 years, closer than not, 45. Donald Trump is recognized as successful and powerful and acceptable.
give us a figure that we might ponder here.
You'll never get it out of me, David. You'll never get it out of me. You'll try, but you'll never get it. Let's get something like how we're going to become more successful. Let's talk about that.
I read something this afternoon that said in the bank right now you have $500 million in cash. In cash. Is that a fair?
Which paper did you read that in?
Well, I can't divulge those sources.
You have to give me
Hey, this hasn't changed either. Oh, well, you heard something about me. Where did you hear that? Oh, I can't divulge those sources. Unavowed sources. No culpability, no comprehension of true journalism. And there's a laugh track involved.
No, just tell me, is that not true or is that close? Am I nuts here?
Well, I don't know. You have to tell me where you got that, David. This is a very unusual interview, folks.
You won't put a figure, just an imaginary figure?
Never would.
$1 billion. You're worth $1 billion? Perhaps. Perhaps. Are we the low side of perhaps or the high side? What were you like as a kid? What kind of childhood did you have?
Well, I had a good childhood.
Is that a cue he draws in the air? Not quite. Half a cue. But what I'm saying is, we have to, if you're going to do this, you're going to do your own research, you're going to open your own head, you're going to play this game, then you've got to start looking historically. Past proof, future proofs past.
What were you like as a kid? What kind of childhood did you have?
Well, I had a good childhood, wonderful parents, really good parents, and it was a good, solid childhood, I'd say. Very normal in a lot of respects, but a very, very solid childhood.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of family.
Are you a driven person? Did you jump out of bed in the morning and just...
I don't think of myself as driven. I'm fortunate. I don't need lots of sleep like some people, and some people don't. I don't need that. I would say that I'm somebody that enjoys what I do, and I enjoy it so much that perhaps I do it well. But I really enjoy what I do. I don't like to think of myself as driven. I don't like to think of myself really as ambitious. I just enjoy what I do, Dan.
Is what you do something you've always wanted to do? I know your father was and still is a real estate developer.
My father was in the real estate business, and I've been in that and other businesses and different things. I like what I'm doing. I just enjoy what I'm doing. I love the real estate business, and I love the other businesses that I'm in.
Could you have done it without your father as a support system, both emotionally and financially? Did he help you out when you were starting?
The emotional was very important. I learned a lot from my father, more than...
So he doesn't talk about finances. So this book that we're talking about, The Art of the Deal, is still in discussion.
Rules and regulations.
This is 60 Minutes in Australia, by the way.
Regulations were things to get around and to evade. Systems should not apply to him. And this was the ethos that he took with him and exported to Washington, D.C. And now it has had a real trickle-down impact to the Republican Party.
Well, one of the themes in your book is the band of players and supporters who come in and out of his inner circle. Many of them are from those early New York days. Is there any defining characteristic of that group?
Trump spends all of his time looking for people who will defend him. That was part of how he ended up with the lawyer Roy Cohn, who introduced him to Ron.
So she's going to go down the line of Cohn, who's the only guy that got convicted and thrown in jail. They're trying to tie him to the people. So Trump spends his entire career filtering through people he can trust. He can trust. Final key to the way to is bravado. I like to play people's fantasies. People may not always think big themselves, but they can still get very excited by those who do. That's why a little hyperbole never hurts. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular. the most spectacular. See what Oprah says about that.
Major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're...
Now, this is a completely different rhetoric that he gives a year before.
Anything else. I learned a lot. My father was out in sort of a tough business in Brooklyn, Queens, rent-controlled property and various properties. And it wasn't a great business. It was a good business. And he was a solid guy and a bright guy. And I learned a lot from my father. And I think if, in terms of support, that would be the number one thing that I got from my father.
Have you had failures, big failures?
Well, I don't look at failures as failures. I think a failure is something that you really want to learn by.
Failure is something you really want to learn by. Remember our number 8 in the art of the deal, which is having an upside and a downside both covered. The downside was him having to walk away. We're going to do more shows about Q here. I'll get more of those done today. I'm waiting for my Q expert to be in the right spot. And but look, this is the basis for what we're talking about here. This is another puzzle to unravel. This is the original puzzle 45 years ago.
I would say that I haven't had too many, and I want to keep it that way. I like
What's the biggest bath you've taken on a deal?
I don't know if I can answer it yet. I mean, let's see what happens. So far, I've been very fortunate. But, I mean, we've all been fortunate. Markets have been going up other than a few weeks ago.
Now, did you get hurt in the stock market then?
Not particularly, but I think everybody gets hurt, because when you lose $1 trillion or whatever throughout the world, I suspect everybody's hurt indirectly. I'm in the real estate business. You sell apartments, you sell this, you sell that. Perhaps people don't have as much. Everybody gets hurt by that, David.
Let me ask you one more of these silly questions, and I promise after we do the commercial, we'll go on to other topics.
Then we're going to get serious, right?
Well, I didn't say that. What would it take? What kind of a hit would it take to get your attention where you would maybe need a drink? Where somebody came in and said, Don, we got some bad news. Woo! That's 7-Eleven in Akron. Well, what?
Hopefully, David, I wouldn't be in a position where I'd have to take that kind of...
I know that. I know. We're just pretending.
I just want to tell you that.
You act like you're running for something.
No.
We'll do a commercial. We'll let him think some of these over and try and get us straight.
Notice that before they go to break here, the last thing we heard was, are you running for something? A year later on Oprah, he gives a completely different answer.
Okay, Donald Trump is here. You're on the cover of the new issue of People magazine. I don't know what I'm beating around the bush here. I don't know why you're being so goofy about this. It says on the cover, you're a billionaire.
It does say that?
Yeah.
If so People says it, I would have to believe it.
It says it, I'll have to believe it. People magazine says it, I gotta believe it.
People says it.
What's the deal with you and Ed Koch? Is this an old irritation between the two of you, or is this something new?
No, it's really not. Ed Koch is a man who I've liked at some points in terms of I have no objection to Ed except for one thing. He's not a very capable or competent mayor. He's done.
This is what we hear from him all when he gets to Washington. Years later, these people suck. These people suck less, and a couple of people are good.
He's done a bad, as most of you New Yorkers will probably know, he's done a pretty bad job running New York, and that hurts me and it hurts everybody. And when I see somebody that's not competent and he's running something, and something that I have really a big stake in, it bothers me, and I do something about it.
Are you speaking from a position of somebody who has a lot of really, really special interest in the city?
No, it's not I do have a special interest. I have a special interest in New York. New York City is a hot city. It's a great city. It's the greatest city in the world, according to many, and according you're here, and we're all sort of here.
Right.
And I hate to see some of the things happening with New York that have happened under the Koch administration. So I hit him pretty hard in the book, but I hit him fairly in the book. I hit him very fairly. Yeah. Probably very hard in the book, but very fairly.
Is it kind of a pointless defense to say that this city is so big that it is actually unmanageable to a certain extent, and he's doing the best he can, sort of just tending it day to day?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I hope that's never a defense of anybody. I did the Woolman skating rink in 4 months for $2 million or $2.5 million. They started 7 years before that and were unable to build it. I think they spent something like $15 million.
This is a huge ice skating facility in Central Park, which the city was...
7 years. 7 years.
7 years, they could not get it open.
They could not build it.
Yeah.
And we did it in 4 months. So, you know, you say, hey, it's big and everything else, and give them a little bit more time. But the fact is, that's a disgrace. The zoos are a disgrace. The subways, the schools.
So he could be talking about our nation. This is the same piece of rhetoric that we've been looking at. Trump is saying, I can come in and get a project done in a fraction of the time and actually finish it.
But
it's really, David, it's really management. It's management, it's competence, it's capability, it's just basic ability, and Ed Koch doesn't have it.
Yeah, but you're speaking again from the over the fence in private enterprise. He's trying to run a municipal administration.
It can be done.
You think it could be done?
Absolutely. By the right person, it could be done.
Yeah. Any thoughts? I mean, would you want to be mayor of the city?
No, I wouldn't want to be. It'd run very well if I was mayor, but I would not want to be the mayor of New York.
Is there something you do want?
No, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I mean, I'm on your show, your fantastic show. You're a star in my book. Everyone's talking about
I know. I appreciate that.
We wrote all about David in the big book.
Now, that's another thing. We came up to you that one afternoon, completely unannounced. We were in the lobby of the Trump Tower facility up the road there, and we just called up and said, can we come up and see Don? And they said, come on up.
Absolutely.
Now, how busy can you be?
I'm not busy at all.
But you
that
were
was a lot of fun, by the way.
Yeah, it was
coming
fun.
up was a lot of fun.
And I must say, I thought that was very gracious of you to do, because obviously you've got a lot better things to do than goof around with me.
You're right.
Yeah. And what about are people trying to draft you to run for president up in New Hampshire?
Well, I guess a lot of people want to see this country. It's a shame what's happening. Japan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, everybody's taking advantage of the United States. People know that if certain people are running a country, that it won't happen. I mean, when you look at Japan, not paying for the defense,
this is where he went. When he came into office, this is where he went. Okay? This is what we all are supposed to remember according to the media.
Great honor, the honor of a lifetime, the greatest people in the world, and the greatest home in the world. I call it a home. We've had an amazing 4 years. We've accomplished a lot. We love the American people, and again, it has been something very special. And I just want to say goodbye, but hopefully it's not a long-term goodbye. We'll see each other again. Thank you all very much.
Hopefully it's not a long-term goodbye. We will see each other again. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping to see. That's what we're hoping to see, because this is the real case.
They're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. You know, they all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around.
It's the play of politics. It's the play of politics. Look who comes on right after Trump on the Letterman show a year before. Watch who comes up right after.
Defending Japan. We're losing billions and billions of dollars. We're fighting for AIDS help and for farmers and for this and that. And it's a shame. And the Japanese folks, who I respect greatly, but they're not treating us fairly. They're really not treating us fairly. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, they're not paying us anything for the services we're rendering, and I think it's a disgrace. And I think people look at certain people, and maybe me, if I were in a position, this country, believe me, would not be ripped off like it is. And it is just being ripped off so badly by our so-called allies.
Yeah. So that's a pretty strong statement. So now, are you
I don't
saying
think it's strong. I think it's fair. And by the way, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese. I do a lot of business with the Japanese, and they smile about it too. They know it. The country is losing billions and billions of dollars to Japan, and we can't afford to lose. And it's a shame.
But so now, are you saying this by way of indicating that you could do it better, and you do intend to run for president at some point?
No, I'm not going to run for president, but I think somebody.
Now, in 8 years, if you came back, would you have a different answer? In 4 years,
I tend to doubt it. I really tend to doubt it. But I just think that there's so many ways that this country can straighten itself out, and we're not going about those ways. Cutting farm aid is not the appropriate thing. Cutting help for the homeless and help for the poor and welfare. Certain things can be done that really will mean big dollars to this country. And those things are not being done right now.
Let me ask you one other question, because I know you have other appointments and stuff to get to. If you go to dinner and the bill is like, say, $25, how much of a tip would you throw down?
You know, the way I feel about tips, if somebody does a super job, I give more than anyone. And if somebody does a lousy job, I probably give less than anybody. And that's the way I feel about life.
Yep. He's going to tip the people that give him great service, and he is going to punish those who do not. And that is what has happened. And we need to be doing a good work so that our real commander-in-chief here is tipping us with information and bravado and hyperbole, probably.
Life should be, you should be rewarded for competence and capability and doing a job and having a smile on your face, maybe, if that's the case. And I'm a pretty good tipper when somebody's good, and I'm a pretty lousy tipper if somebody's not good. So that's the way it is.
But, you know, sitting here listening to this stuff, it seems to me you are dying to get to some public platform to superimpose those feelings upon the American awareness.
Well, maybe so, but I'm not. I would like to have the feelings known and let somebody else do it, and it can be done. If the ball's carried correctly, it can be done.
Yeah, but if you want something done right,
do it yourself.
Here's the book. It's Trump, the Art of the Deal, and this is Donald Trump. Donald, thank you very much for coming.
This is the way it used to be in the media with Donald Trump. This is the way it used to be. This is his book release in 87. December 22nd is when this aired, 1987. So the next guy that's going to come up, he's dead now, but his name was Jimmy the Greek, and he's an odds maker. So the next thing that happens on television is they start playing the game.
12 seasons, our next guest.
We are the ones being gambled. We're the chips. We're the chips on the table.
That's the NFL Today with Brent Musburger. He is a man who knows the angles and the odds on everything from the White House to the Super Bowl. Folks, please say hello to Jimmy
the White House and the Super Bowl in the same sentence. If you know, you know.
Greek Snyder. Hi, Jimmy. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Since I can make it all even, you can come on our show tomorrow. Then tell us what's wrong with the Giants.
All right, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
All right. Let's. I mentioned here the White House to the Super Bowl. Since we just mentioned it, since we were talking about Gary Hart, could you now give us odds on the Republican nominee, the Democratic nominee, and the ultimate winner?
Gary Hart too.
Yeah, whatever.
See
you
what
want.
Too much love's done for you.
What's that?
Blows out your brain.
Okay.
That's mine.
I see.
Okay. Now, the Republican nominee, it's 8-5 that Bush beats.
Okay, it's 8-5 that Bush beats. We all know that Bush wins. He wins with a steal. Hanging Chad happens in Florida. All right, this is an odds maker who is on the NFL every week telling people where to bet. We all know the NFL's rigged. We all know politics are rigged. So right after Trump comes out and they push him in 1987, they release his deal. They come out and they start talking odds. Wake up, people. Wake up. The media is not your friend. This was Donald Trump. Here's the art of the deal. You got to know your market. You got to use your leverage. You got to enhance your location. You got to get the word out. You got to fight back, deliver the goods, and contain the costs. Have fun. And what's this one? These are my memorable quotes at the end. So look, this is the way we're supposed to remember Trump. So that's what the White House is supposed to look like when there's people in front of it and stuff going on. It's not what's happening now.
What could you do with a metal 3D printer?
If you go around Washington right now, it's a ghost town. There's no one anywhere. The White House is literally cordoned off. There's no snipers on the roof. There's nobody active, engaged. It's empty. It's empty. There hasn't been anyone there for years. What is happening? Pay attention. Pay attention. Okay? Oh, wait. Do we see snipers on the top? They just zoomed in. Nope. I see no one. This is an unprotected White House. One guy down here in front, maybe. Is that a person? This is happening, okay? It's right in front of us. It's right in front of us, everybody. You just got to open your eyes and you got to listen to the media with an odds maker's perspective.
Still. Now, it's 6-1. You can't guess who the Democrat's going to be, and I don't care who you take.
Yeah.
And it's 50-1 against Hart.
And are there odds now on Cuomo being brought back into the fray?
Well, if anybody would make them, it would be me, and I don't think Cuomo wants to run, but I would have to make him a 20-1 shot.
Mm-hmm.
Only because he doesn't want to run. If he would run, he'd be a 3-1 shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all odds. And we are the chips on the table. Us. We are the chips on the table. We are the chips on the table. Hey, look, we have a sponsor. It's in the Chiron on the bottom. It's these guys in the aging bed. Give us a call. Look, they have stuff. It works. It's electroceutical healing. It's electric-based technology. It's vibration, frequency, and light, and it's actually shipping, and you can get it. So, look, I appreciate everybody that has showed up here this morning. I'm going to come back later and do some more Q related stuff on deltas if I can get my Q expert in line. So I appreciate everybody. Happy Sunday. If you're the sound of my voice within range and you don't look yourself in the mirror, especially today, Sunday, come forward and do it for yourself. Tell yourself you're fantastic. No one else is going to agree with you if you don't agree with you first.